Hey girl. Today we're going through chapter 2 of Biased by Jennifer Eberhardt. I'm starting off with a quote from page 24 about categorization. It's a universal function of the brain that allows us to organize and manage the overload of stimuli that constantly bombard us. It's a system that brings coherence to a chaotic world. It helps our brains make judgments more quickly and efficiently by instinctively relying on patterns that seem predictable. But categorization can also impede our efforts to embrace and understand people who are not deemed like us, by tuning us to the faces of people who look like us and dampening our sensitivity to the faces of people who don't. She talks about a study with Latino participants. The researchers used computer-generated faces that are supposed to be racially ambiguous. And on some of those faces, they put hairstyles associated with Latino people, and on others, they used hairstyles associated with Black people. And they found that the participants were better able to recognize people of their own race, even though the faces were the same. In one study that the author conducted at Stanford with Brent Hughes, Nicholas Camp, and some other colleagues, they found that white participants exhibited less brain activity in areas that specialize in processing faces when they were shown Black faces versus white. When white participants were shown a series of different white faces, the brain activity was really high. It was only after the participants were shown one white face over and over that the brain activity dampened, which is called repetition suppression. It's like the brain saying, we've seen this before, so there's no need to pay as much attention to it. But when white participants were shown several different Black faces over and over again, their brain seemed to categorize all of those different Black faces as one group. So we know that some people think that certain human traits are fixed, like you're either smart or dumb, mean or nice. And others think that certain human traits are malleable, that like a mean person can become nice over time. So she conducted a study to answer the question of, if you were shown a racially ambiguous face, would knowing the person's race, if they were white or Black, would that affect how you perceive them? The participants were shown a racially ambiguous image of a face. Half were told that the person was white, half were told that the person was Black, and then they were asked to draw the face. So for the people that believe that human traits are fixed, if they were told that the face was Black, they drew a more Black face. And for the people that think that human traits are malleable, the opposite happened. They were told that the person was Black, they drew a face that was more white. And here's the photo. Categorization is so strong that even just, for example, seeing a Black person can bring up a host of stereotypes that we picked up from our society. And we become so comfortable with these stereotypes, quote, that we ultimately adapt to and embrace stereotypes, rooting them so deeply that they're passed along unquestioned to each new generation over decades and centuries. Her first grader, she's a Black woman married to a Black man with Black children. And one day he asked her, do you think that people see Black people differently from white people? She was so surprised that he asked this. And he was talking about a time they went to the grocery store in a mostly white neighborhood, and there was one Black person there in the grocery line. He said it was like there was an invisible force field around him, and his line was the shortest, like people stayed away from him. She asked him why he thinks that is, and he said, I think it's fear. That really shocked her because they hadn't discussed this, but it's an example that these ideas are embedded into our society. There was a study done out of the University of Washington where 2 videos were shown to preschoolers. One was of an adult interacting with someone else and happily sharing a colorful toy, and then another video of an adult interacting with someone in a mean voice and reluctantly sharing the colorful toy. So 75% of the time, the children pointed to the kind adult in reference to which adult they prefer. So after a short video, preschoolers have seen enough to hold the target of bias responsible rather than the holder of bias. There is another study where researchers measured the bias in a group of mostly white parents in a Midwestern town using a survey gauging the extent to which they agreed with items like African Americans are a physical threat to the safety of most Americans, and African Americans get more from this country than they deserve. Then they asked 4th and 5th graders to complete a survey to measure how much they agreed with their parents. Then the researchers administered an IAT, an implicit association test. The IAT measures bias by tracking the speed of which study participants can categorize the faces of black or white and the words of good or bad. So words like joy and peace versus nasty and evil. So sometimes the children were told to push one computer key if they saw black faces or bad words, and a different computer key if they saw white faces and good words. Other times the children were told to push one key if they saw black faces or good words, and a different key if they saw white faces or bad words. What they usually find is that the responses were quicker when they were asked to use one key associated with black faces and bad words, versus the children that were told to use one key for black faces and good words. Those kids had a slower response time. And the more that the parents were anti-black or racist, anti-black is the word that she used, it a lot of times correlated with the kids having a slower response time to using one key for black faces and good words. Another study, researchers chose 11 popular TV shows that have positive representation of black people. They showed participants a 10-second muted clip, people who were unfamiliar with the TV show, a clip where the black actor was edited out of frame. Some were told that the unseen character was black, some were told that they were white. And you guessed it, the people that were told that the unseen character was black had more negative associations and reactions to them versus the ones that were told that the actor was white. I'll read the last paragraph of this chapter that leaves you with some questions. How do we know when we're being insensitive or unfair? How much of who we are and who we feel is dictated by things outside of our awareness and control? How often are we really the tolerant, fair-minded person that we want to be? And how can we learn to check ourselves and mute the negative impact that bias can have?